My name is Molly and I'm 23 years old. I've known that I had vaginismus for a couple years now. When I was 13, I was never able to use a tampon. That's when I got my first period, when I was 13. I was never able to use a tampon, and so my mom just thought that it was something that I would grow out of. Eventually I would be able to do it, but then I never was able to. And so I was looking up different things online about what was going on with me, and I saw a bunch of different options. I saw vaginismus when I googled it, and I saw microperforate hymen, imperforate hymen, a bunch of different things, but I never really sought treatment because I didn't think it was something super, I guess, important. But a few years ago I met somebody who I fell in love with and I wanted to have sex, and we weren't able to. I was in the relationship for about 4 years and we got engaged, and we never could do that, and so that's when I started actually seeking treatment. And that's when after being in my relationship, I'm assuming that my mom had thought that my boyfriend and I were having sex, and once we got engaged and it became clear that this was something that was more permanent than just a boyfriend situation, I decided it was time to tell my mom, I still haven't had sex, I still haven't been able to use a tampon. And so she was really understanding and was really supportive and was like, oh my god, that sounds awful. I can't believe that you've been suffering from this for so long and haven't told me. And so she took me to a gynecologist that one of her friends recommended. And the gynecologist suspected that I had a microperforate hymen. And she tried to do the exam to confirm, tried to sort of insert a finger to see if that was the case, and wasn't able to confirm it, but they scheduled the surgery anyway. So I had a hymenectomy about 6 months ago, I think, and after that, about a month after the surgery, it was the time for the post-op exam, and I thought that this would finally be the answer. I wouldn't have the anxiety around things being inserted into my vagina. But when the doctor tried to insert the finger to see how it was healing, it was still incredibly painful and just not something that I was comfortable with. And she sort of brushed it off as oh no, that's fine, it's fine. And I get that she was trying to make me feel more comfortable about it, but I don't think she understood the level of anxiety that I had. So she never really, she told me about dilators that I could get and that I could start trying to use tampons, but I still wasn't able to. So when she told me to use the dilators, I tried the tampon first. She said that I could try with the very lightest tampon, the very smallest that I could try, because that was about the size of a dilator or smaller. And so I tried that first, and I still wasn't able to do it. And that's when I decided. I didn't go on to purchase dilators or anything. I just decided to come here. And luckily my parents were able to pay for it, and we're trying to get insurance to pay for it still. But luckily it was something that we were financially able to do and just try that first rather than a bunch of other things. But it's something that I had wished my gynecologist had talked to me about before I had a surgery, because that was obviously something that unnecessary surgery isn't something that people should go through. And so I wish that she had told me all of the different options that it could be before just rushing into surgery, because that was the only option she said. It was the only thing that she said it could possibly be. And so I trusted my gynecologist and said, okay, that's gonna be what it is. I had read about vaginismus before then, but I didn't even bother bringing it up because she seemed so certain that it was a microperforate hymen that I was like, okay, then I guess we need to have surgery. My friends growing up never really had any issues using tampons. I mean, when I was 13, there were other girls who just weren't quite comfortable with it yet, but gradually they were able to use it, and they would tell me about it and sort of try to help me with it a little bit, but I never felt comfortable. I would get really close to being able to do it and then not, sort of freak out a little bit and not be able to insert a tampon. And gradually I became aware that that wasn't normal, that it was more than just a little bit of anxiety before doing it for the first time. And gradually my friends started having sex and telling me about that experience, and I was always pretty anxious about that as well. And after I got into my 4-year relationship and engagement, my friends would ask, like, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? And I was like, no, and they're like, still not yet. And it felt like they really didn't understand, like, the leveling of anxiety that I had around it. So when I initially saw that I was having problems with inserting anything and having sex, I had looked up videos online and looked up a bunch of different cures online, and had seen Vaginismus and seen stuff about the Women's Therapy Center. And I had seen the show about strange sex that the Women's Therapy Center was on, but I hadn't really considered coming here. And then that was before I had gone to my gynecologist. Then after I'd gone to my gynecologist is when I decided to come here. So between the time when I contacted the Women's Therapy Center and when I actually came here, I was feeling a little nervous, but I was more hopeful, and it was less that I was scared and more that I was excited. I feel like I was more excited because I had seen all the stories about people who were cured, and I'd seen all the other videos of people who shared their experiences, and they all survived. And so I knew I would survive from this and that I would be cured. I was really trying to trust the process. And I had also done a Skype session with Ditsa, and she didn't seem so scary or anything. She was really nice, and she got to see my dog over the Skype camera, and so I felt really calmed after that Skype session. I think before that I was a little bit more nervous, but after I'd talked to Ditsa, I felt more reassured. So I came here alone. My parents definitely support me coming here, but they couldn't get off work to come for 2 weeks, and my relationship ended with the person who I was engaged to. So he also wasn't here. But I decided that I still wanted to come here because I should do this for me, and that it's still something. I don't want to start a new relationship still having this sort of baggage. I want to be cured. So I decided to come here alone anyway, which was a little bit daunting. I was when I first came here, I was expecting my mom to come with me, and then, like, she had said, okay, go, and so it kind of, like, dawned on me that, oh my gosh, I have to do this alone. But I knew I could do it, because I've traveled alone before. I've been on my own for a while in college, so it's something that I felt fairly prepared for, but I knew that emotionally it was going to be taxing. Luckily, I have friends who I've told about this. I'm pretty open about talking about it because I don't think there should be this stigma behind it that we can't talk about it, because I think if more people talked about it, I would have known about it sooner and that I could be cured. So I wouldn't have had to suffer through thinking I was going to be alone for the rest of my life or thinking I would never have sex. There was a point in time when I was just like, okay, well, I'll become a nun. It's just, I'm not meant to have sex, apparently. And so I think if more people knew about it, I would be cured a lot sooner. But coming here alone, I knew that I could call my friends if I needed to and do things a little bit on my own if I needed to, take a break, go to the pool. The hotel's really nice. So my first day here, I was pretty nervous because it was actually finally happening. But the first day was fine. There was no body work going on. It was just talking to Dr. Ross and getting my medical history done. The second day was when body work started, and that was when I was a lot more nervous than I had been in the previous months. So the body work started, and Ross was back there holding my hand, and I guess it first started off with learning more about my body. I had seen my vagina before just with a mirror because I was curious, but nobody had actually gone through what everything is called, and so that was kind of nice. And I guess knowing what's down there made it a lot easier, like knowing what's going on when they're inserting something. And I think after the first day, it was sort of like a high because it was the first time anything had been inserted into my vagina, and the first time I had personally inserted anything, which was huge. Like, I'd never been able to do that before. And I think after that, that's what made my process so easy here, because I was really trusting, and after that first insertion, I was like, okay, well, I can do this. Then I guess I guess a lower point. I felt like I didn't have very many low points while I was here. But a lower point was the first time I was inserting a tampon, and I got a little lightheaded. I had to sit down for a little bit. Deedza had to sort of walk me back out of the bathroom and like sit down because I was getting lightheaded and like cold sweats, and just, it was not something that I was quite comfortable with. So that was a slower process for me than the spacers. But even like now I feel okay with it, and so now I feel completely calm about tampons and the spacers and sex. So you don't have to suffer from this. Don't just put yourself in a box and say, this is my comfort zone and this is all I can do. I would definitely say to come here and get treatment, and because you don't have to suffer from this. There is a cure. Just trust in the process. I've talked to other girls who were here, and my advice to them, because I did have an easier process, because I hadn't had too many experiences before I came here that were bad, just trust. Just try to trust in the process and know that your body is made to do this. It'll be okay. Other doctors have told you that it's all in your head, and while a part of it is in your head, that's not exactly helpful. Just saying it's in your head isn't helpful. Just because it's in your head doesn't mean it's not real. Just because it's in your head doesn't mean it shouldn't be treated just like any other illness. So that's my